Exclusives are dying every single day. On the one hand, it makes perfect sense why this would be happening, especially if you're looking at it from the perspective of like an executive or something, someone who's making all the decisions up top, and sometimes someone who is actually tone deaf to actually what's going on. But I'll be honest with you guys, right? I can't even begin to imagine what the gaming industry would look like without exclusives like Zelda, Mario, God of War, just to name a few. And you will have some people talking about, oh hey, exclusives are the cancer of the gaming industry, exclusives are this, exclusives are that. But people tend to forget that only greatness comes from competition. Exclusives are the crux of competition. I'm trying to figure out why this is happening. Why are we going through this phase of the lack of exclusive, not necessarily the lack of exclusive, more so the lack of console exclusives and more of a multi-platform approach? Why is this happening? Men are with no culture. Welcome back to Challenge Your Boy Senzu. We're back again. We are back with another video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All the links will be in my description down below. Follow me if you can on Twitter because I talk there a lot. I know I also stream as well. Without further ado, let's hop into the video. Before we begin to comprehend exactly what's going on with the gaming industry, we have to look at from the perspective of why exactly are exclusives not a thing anymore. And the best way for us to describe this would be, hey, I'm going to tell you a little story about me and gaming. Like you guys know, I'm Nigerian. Growing up in Nigeria, Lagos specifically, I was a gamer. I'm still a gamer till I die. And I remember the very first console I got, which was a Sega Genesis. Yes, I said that. A Sega Genesis. Don't use those uncle jokes on me, fam. I will fuck you up. Anyways, I fell in love with gaming because of that little bit of a machine. But I had friends that had the PlayStation 1, I had friends that had Game Boys, I had friends that had the SNES and the NES. And I would always see all these cool games like Final Fantasy 7, Rayman, Spyro the Dragon on the PS1, Mario 64, and just name a few. Because of the feeling I got from just looking at my friends playing these types of games that I didn't have, I needed a console like a PS1 so badly because of those games. And obviously, me being the type of guy that I am, I obviously had to convince my parents about, hey, me getting the PS1 or me getting the SNES or whatever will be beneficial to you because it makes me happy. What makes me happy also makes you happy as my parents. Now, in hindsight, probably not the best decision to make because the consoles back then were bloody expensive, especially being in Nigeria. So if they were expensive everywhere else in the world, try thinking of time, whatever the price was of the console back then, multiply it by 2 and that's how much it costs in Nigeria. But hey, you know what? I'm grateful to how my parents, they actually came through and they actually got the console. Never forget that moment. Before we continue, make sure to put in the comment section down below what was your very first gaming memory, what was your first gaming console. Put in the comment section down below, let's talk about it. I just want to know what you guys think. The idea of having a console and buying a console because of the great experiences that I just told you guys, is literally the bedrock of how gaming platform owners built their success. Back then, the success of every single gaming platform holder company relied strongly on the exclusives they offered. It led to competition. It led to companies vying for more power, and that's why we got the games we got. We got the experiences we got because of that particular thing. Every single console has an identity, and yes, you might say that I'm living in the past, but it doesn't make any sense because that's what we all grew up on. We grew up from our past and we're growing up now, and we can only look back on the good things we experienced when these things were there. You get into the consoles ecosystem because of the experiences you get and because of the feeling it brings you. Take for example, if you want to feel like a kid again, not saying everyone should feel like a kid again because we're all adults now, but if you want to feel like, a kid again, family oriented, think of the memories you had back in the day playing Metroid, Mario, Zelda, it only made sense that you would fall back on a Nintendo Switch or a Nintendo console or whatever the biggest Nintendo consoles at the time. If you wanted to experience what it's like being a badass soldier in the future, you could only experience that with Halo on the Xbox. Yes, shout out Master Chief. And last but not the least, if you wanted to feel like an actual demigod, if you wanted to feel like an actual beast of a man wrecking the whole world of ancient Greece, you could only experience that on PlayStation with God of War, of course. That was the crux of being a gamer. That was the point of being a gamer. That's how these platform holders made their money. Well, that is until gaming took a little bit of a turn and things went from good to okay to slightly unknown. You see, in the early 90s and the late 2000s, a AAA game cost anywhere between $1 and $4 million. Yes, $1 million. See how crazy it is to think of $1 million actually being able to make a game back then. Gaming wasn't mainstream back then. It still had this stigma around it of you being a nerd if you loved it. Now, games weren't as complex back then, so the expectations of these games being able to achieve a certain level of success wasn't as high. And the emphasis of these gaming studios and what you have not was more on the creativity of the product and not the actual profitability of the product. Put an emphasis on the profitability because we'll get back to that very soon. Now, with the introduction of a new game engine like Unity, Unreal, and engines like that, shit hit the ceiling, fam. Developers started making complex titles. The demand for more complicated titles became greater. Mobile gaming slowly started being adopted by studios. Game developers' salaries increased because everyone was trying to look for the best people to actually utilize the tools that were in the market currently. And all these things have led to, and let's not even talk about the constant chase for high cutting-edge technology in video games and photorealism in our video games. All these things I just mentioned right now have led to the drastic increase in time of making these games. From an average of 1 to 3 years that we experienced back then, has now been doubled to 6 years for a AAA game. And let's not talk about the cost of making a AAA game. Remember how I told you guys about how a AAA game costs between $1 to $4 million in the early 2000s? A AAA game currently on an average costs about $60 million to make. We're not even talking about like the big AAA games that cost anywhere north of $100 million. Every single thing I'm mentioning here leads to a certain level of instability because it's not sustainable. Yes, this is me being dramatic. Every single thing I just mentioned has led to the cataclysmic event of what we're seeing now with certain platform holders following the multi-platform trend of bringing exclusives to multiple platforms. On the one hand, it is a good thing because now it's a case of, hey, everyone can play this particular game. You don't need to own a console to buy a particular game. You don't need to own the Xbox to buy Halo. You don't need to own a PlayStation to buy God of War. But that's only the good side of it. Coming at it from the perspective of someone who grew up playing games and the exclusives we've got, there is a loss of identity for every single platform holder that is going about it in this particular way. And we're also seeing something even more different. We're seeing a lack of competition. We're seeing a lot of complacency from certain studios, from certain platform holders, e.g. Sony. I'm not going to be the one to tell you, but clearly we can see that Sony right now isn't the same Sony that was back then when they were trying to fight for their lives in the Xbox 360 era. I only think from here, the number of exclusives we're going to have is only going to go downhill. I think we will still get exclusives like Nintendo. Nintendo has currently stood the test of time and has currently stood their ground on, hey, we're bringing you exclusives that can only be identified with the Nintendo platform and the Nintendo symbol. That is if you don't include people who pirate games. We still have Nintendo going about it the way that we know, and to a lesser extent Sony. Even though Sony is still pushing for certain games to be on the PC, for example, they aren't going to do anything more than that. Well, now that I think about it, Horizon Lego, which is also coming on Switch, so and it's just weird I'm talking about this now because the making of the script and making of this video happened before the whole debacle with Gamescom and Indiana Jones going to Xbox, which, yeah, it's not a good sign, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know what, it's not Halo. To be fair with you guys, and I'll be honest with you guys, the only way you can actually see yourself through this whole era we're in, this whole period of gaming we're in, and the only advice I can really give you guys has to do with you not holding yourself to one console, not being held by the balls of a particular platform. You have the choice. It's all about making your voice known, making your voice heard by your wallet. You play as many games as you want to play. You play as many games as you can afford. You play on multiple platforms. I think the best scenario for anyone right now who can afford it would be to get a gaming PC, a PlayStation, and a Switch. And this is coming from someone who actually enjoys playing the Xbox Series X. But at the same time, I also have to look at it from a bigger picture of, hey, the whole idea of exclusives as we know it is coming to an end, and there's only going to be probably just 1 or 2 people, 2 platform holders still upholding the whole title of, an exclusive. Leave in the comment section down below what you think of this whole debacle of, hey, exclusives as we know it aren't exactly the same thing as how we grew up playing video games. What do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years with gaming? And similar to what I said about you being able to own a gaming PC and you being able to actually perfect yourself by being a PC gamer, I think one of the biggest obstacles of people who are trying to get into PC is people are afraid of, or people aren't ready to learn mouse and keyboard, or aren't ready to do the work to learn mouse and keyboard, because honestly speaking, it's actually not an easy thing to do. And I really talk about that in this video, which you currently see right now, right here. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the video if you can. Thanks for watching the video. Hope to hear from you soon. Peace out.